Dearly redheaded, we are choosing consciousness today to get through this thing called grief. Interesting word, grief. It means love, which makes for a mighty good joke, but I'm here to tell you, there's nothing else. Just joy. And if the big picture tends to bring you down, go crazy once your life goes. Woo!
All right, episode 5. That was very, very, very intense with Melanie. I hope I didn't get too me over it. Brian just busted my balls a little bit because you don't have my whole story, and I want it to come out in Laugh So I Don't Die. I will be putting up some other podcasts that I've done with other people telling my story. I just, for the sake of this place, I want to get the book out of me. And then I'll open like a,
like a book.
Like a book. There we go. Yeah, I stretch for those analogies.
Yeah, I'm here all week.
Anyway, I did a lot of preparation for post-Melanie conversation that is not like a lot of it. It's going into the abyss. And it breaks my heart, not because I needed to talk about it. I saw Bill Burr in an interview this week, and he was like, he's beyond having to write shit down and what he thinks of it. If it comes up, it comes up. And I'm like, oh, yeah, I want to do that, but this is all so new to me that I just want to share it. And I also read my website, and I've been listening to my podcasts as they air. I'm about 8 weeks. Like this will air in 8 weeks. It's mid-August. This will air in October. So I've been watching the podcast, and I make a lot of promises from the perspective of I'm going to get there, I'm going to do this, da-da-da-da. Well, I'm going to stop making the promises because I don't remember a fucking thing. And I have just dissociation from a lot of this, not because I don't want to talk about it, but just because once it's out, it's out. And where it goes, it goes. It's doing whatever it's supposed to do for the 3.75 of you that watch. So, and it's my love letter to myself. So there's that. This is all in conjunction with the book, which I'm finally getting voice to text because it's so hard for me to write and then reflect. And I have to get it out of me in voice to text, and then I can go on to my other projects that I can write without it. So I have some poor soul coming over to help me with that. There's one I've been very good with the ums. Very good. Watching myself is painful. Hearing the ums on the podcast. Wishing I wore a better bra in a couple of them. What else do I think about when I watch myself? I just really hope the messages are coming across. I don't have a hard time in my one-on-one conversations, but here I'm just asking virtual strangers to have these conversations, and I know I can get them to the place where maybe they don't see where I'm going, but I think Melanie did when I got her there. I'm basically a philosopher. One of my sons many years ago called me a philosopher, and I thought, oh, that's cute, and it's really very true, and I never would have said that even just a few years ago. And I will get out all the things that I think about that I'm a little ahead on. And when I have those experiences, I like to find people that can spitball about it. Somebody that's going to start talking to me in September, so November for you folks. Mid-November, because we're starting in mid-September. she and I are going to do what's called thought experiments. She does something very similar to what I do when it comes to topics. And we're also big fans of solitude. So when you think this way, it's great, but it also has a downside. It requires a lot of solitude. And I've probably only said that 700 or 800 times. So I think what I'm going to try to do is continue my empathy for what the generations are up against, even though they sometimes hate that word. I know Gen Z hates the word empathy and intention and all the words that my generation uses to try and get them to feel something they're not ready to feel, which is a big part of all of this. I think what I want to say, and it sounds a little Jungian, you know, Carl Jung has become much bigger than I thought in my life. And I understand why now. He really had a bead on a lot of this shit. To reduce him to dream work is criminal. He, along with, when I talk about Gavi Kovalenko, she's like a modern day Jung. And it just, the two of them are beating on me, and I mean energy wise, to really kind of stick to their stuff. Along the way, I very often, Melanie asked me what I would suggest. I found this week Carolyn Myss, who does an incredible job on the archetypes and facing ourselves. I found a very powerful writer, male writer, who can synthesize Steve Delano Garcia, the way that he can balance male and female energies. His anima and animus are integrated. Wow, can this guy write? Panty dropping. For those of us who enjoy when a man can exploit his anima. I don't know how else to say it. Who else have I encountered this week? There was one more. Oh, Peter Crone, who I think I've mentioned before, really synthesized something about, you know, there's a lot of people who say, let go. Garcia will say, let go and let stay, which I find beautiful. Peter Crone said, and I got to do it justice, when we know what our prism is, what gets to us, so to speak, when we know our own prism, just to imagine life without those things. And that, to me, is a variation on being in the moment, but it's more, it has a reason. Being the moment's easy to say. Imagining life without the prism, the negative aspects of your prism. He didn't say it, I'm saying that. And imagining living without them is just a twist on it. A lot of this stuff is people's twists, and hopefully I'm developing my own twist on a lot of this stuff, because I feel like for the neurodivergent population, whether it's autism, ADHD, I feel like I have a contribution, because I think in pictures, patterns, and numbers, and can just, see the curveball coming. I was derailed from it for a number of years, and it made me fodder for being derailed from it. So it was the way that I was born. I just had a 40-year meander. So back to Gen X and the empathy I want to have for Gen X and Y and Z, because we are kind of embroiled in this, is I want to say to Gen X, we put our kids in direct path of our shadow before we addressed our shadow. So I hope that resonates. I wrote many, many things that I'm not going to get to share with you, because it's just too hard for me to do that and talk with you. When people want to have intense conversations with me, that's easy for me. It's harder when, well, I've already fucking explained it 900 times. Beyond Gen Z, Gen Alpha is 2010. Why are you laughing, Brian?
That's my kids, and I'm scared.
I wouldn't be. This is a generation I don't want to put. I'm more scared for are they the millennials' children? They're a little
yes.
older. They're a little
affected. 2000. What is it? 2010 to.
Yeah, I worry about the millennials'
I
children, but I don't worry about Gen Y's. Oh, this gets so fucking confusing. Gen Y, I think.
Yeah, 2010 to 2025 is.
Yeah, and
Gen
then
Z.
then now 2025 is the beta.
Yeah.
So anyway,
Yeah.
I think generations tend to be that are being stereotyped are between 15 and 20 years. So I look forward to. Yeah. I guess you. Oh, let's not go there. Fuck it. All right.
Hey, why not? You know.
So I found a little thing. Carl Jung on the internet is represented all over the place. I believe in AI, and I love what AI can synthesize about Carl Jung. I can't always validate it, and I haven't read enough. Well, I probably have read enough, but I don't remember enough to do a good job of. I want to just read what it's like to read Carl Jung, and then I want to tell you why I don't use it, because it's easier to use what other people have synthesized. I use the term individuation to note the process by which a person becomes a psychological individual. That is, a separate, indivisible unity or whole. It is generally assumed that consciousness is the whole of the psychological individual, but knowledge of the phenomena that can only be explained on the hypothesis of unconscious psychic processes make it doubtful whether the ego and its contents are in fact identical with the whole. This is why I use other people's writings on him. If unconscious processes exist at all, they must surely belong to the totality of the individual, even though they are not components of the conscious ego. If they were part of the ego, they would necessarily be conscious, because everything that is directly related to the ego is conscious. Consciousness can even be equated with the relation between the ego and the psychic contents. Yeah, so you smell what I'm stepping in there. That's why I don't read directly from him. So this Caravaggio Bolo put out an article. I don't know the AI component, but it's phenomenal. I haven't read through it. It's phenomenal. It's called nothing, because I didn't. Bolo's his name. I don't know when it came out, fairly recently, but he describes basically. Let me just read. Individuals who could read micro expressions, sense hidden emotions, and perceive psychological patterns that escaped everyone else. They saw through social masks, detected lies instantly, and felt the unconscious tensions in every room. Jung called this discovery dangerous because these people consistently ended up isolated, exhausted, and unable to maintain normal relationships. And I would argue that has a lot to do with being on the spectrum, and I would also argue that has a lot to do with being a candidate for abuse when you think that way, because it's not exactly like welcomed when you see through people. And I can remember very young being derailed, but not losing that ability, which was horribly painful, because then I had to turn on myself and abandon myself, which you can imagine, right? Bolo describes a patient of Jung's. She could walk in any room and immediately sense the psychological atmosphere, who was lying, who was in emotional pain, who harbored secret resentments. Jung wrote, the patient displays an extraordinary capacity for perceiving unconscious contents in others. But this faculty appears to cause her considerable distress rather than advantage. She couldn't engage in small talk because she saw through every social facade. She speaks of others as if she has access to their private thoughts and hidden motivations. When I verify her observations through careful questioning, they prove remarkably accurate. This wasn't psychosis or delusion. This was consciousness so advanced and had become socially dangerous. But Jung discovered something even more disturbing. Because this patient's extraordinary perception seemed impossible to explain, Jung began investigating what he would later term participation mystique, the psychological phenomenon where individuals with highly differentiated intuition become overwhelmed by unconscious contents from others. And then it goes on to reference his Red Book. I am attempting to read the Red Book. It's not that I don't want to. Everything in me wants to. But again, it is so difficult for me to retain and turn it out that I just hesitate, whereas I have these other vehicles. Gabby's book I have not read front to back. I tend to see what resonates. Like this morning at 4:00 in the morning, I was like, what resonates? And this is her chapter on the courage to be disliked, believe it or not, because I think ultimately I was very off-putting to people. As much as I thought it was cool, I ended up being very off-putting to people, which I had to come to understand was not about me, except when it was about me, which speaks to why I was very good at being a wolf. You know, nothing sociopathic about me. Not a fucking thing. I've never done that before. Anyway, perception, as we have been unraveling it, is a subjective experience reflecting how deeply somebody can align with the perception of source. When somebody is closer to the understanding of oneness than their condition of separateness, they are closer to perceiving life through the eyes of God, more compassionately, open, and inclusively without fostering division, judgment, and oppression. Meanwhile, when somebody experiences more severe fragmentation, seclusion to their ego, fear, and judgment, they move away from their highest source-like perspective. In doing so, they approach their ego as the all-seeing eye that it can impose its perceptions on everybody else, meanwhile failing to see that this is most restrictive and blind-sided perspective of all. And if you smell what I'm stepping in, I'm relating it to the journey that people who face estrangement may want to contemplate. Therefore, your ability to raise your perception of yourself to the point of seeing yourself as a vehicle of awareness that can expand in any way you wish to rise above the judgment, shame, fear, or contradiction of yourself and accommodate freedom, creativity, and expressiveness, brings you into a higher dimension of interaction with life itself. I want to say something, but I'm going to shut up. If you are focused on embodying your energy like a capsule of universal potentiality, there will be no room to worry about others disliking you because you will perceive their reactions as shadows in the lower dimensional plane. They're shadows rather than a reflection of what you are experiencing. And I just invite women who are really facing themselves to hear this. Transcending the fear of being disliked arouses more opportunities to explore where connection is possible and where the deepest love, understanding, and unity can be felt. If you are not focused on fearing those not aligned with you, you can excitedly pursue connection to those who are. The active seekers, lovers, artists, and conscious beings choosing to create beauty out of life and seeking connection at the same level. And connections are changing. the way we connect to ourselves, changing. I hope that between what Melanie and I contemplated and words of wisdom from others beyond just my pie hole, just makes you think, just makes you see what resonates, makes you follow your own tuition. I insulted somebody in my life this week because I had just said I was sort of over other people giving me things to check out. You know, I think I've said before, I'm a comedian, so people give me 67 things that comedians have done. You know, hey, read this. Hey, somebody's doing a podcast that's similar. And I'm just like, right now, I'm just really enjoying my own path and intuition because I was so derailed from it. And it's been a long motherfucking journey. I wouldn't change it, but I'm still trying it on for size. This podcast is doing me. I didn't set out to have any kind of following. You know, I just want you to feel better. Our systems are so antiquated, and we're headed to a place where AI is gonna, if we program it to, is just gonna be able to help us in ways that, you know, we're gonna become more reliant on that than one another as beings. And so much is possible where the dimensions are concerned and what you resonate with. Caroline Myss, Myss, was relating the dimensions to the archetypes, and the archetypes exist in all of us. Carl Jung wrote about them. She wrote about them. I don't know if her connection is Jung. I'm still learning myself. A lot of, believe it or not, stuff that I think about I've been guided to. I can't always connect it. My goal to connect the dots is more for you than for me, because it's just stuff as a clear cognizant. I just know I can't explain it. All I know is I'm so far from being alone. There is no isolation, if that makes sense. So yes, Brian, you have any questions for me?
I think I'm all set.
You sure?
That was a very good way to wrap up everything that just went
Did
on.
I bring it together?
Yes.
You swear to Buddha? I think you just know what I need to hear.
Yeah. Listen, it makes sense to if it makes sense to me, it's making sense to people that know what you're talking about. So let's go. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah. But yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't think it's going to get me laid, but, you know.
There's someone for everyone, right?
Yeah, well, I was just going to. Good girl.
Happy
Good
Friday.
girl, Seki. Good girl. You done good. All right. J-Ma. I know it should be J-Ma. I'm well aware. But if I have to think, that's an extra level. J-Ma. May the energy in you meet the energy in me, and, you know, share sushi. I don't know. Ciao.
Okay, bye.
Thank you for listening and supporting Natural Born Redhead. If you follow the bouncing balls, please like and subscribe. If you know someone interested in sparing others grief and inciting joy, message me on Facebook or reach out via my website, Natural Born Redhead. J-Ma.